Thank you so much. I'm thrilled to be here. I can't retire yet, so lots of work ahead. Okay. So I'm here to share some of my research, and I really want to give Olivia the credit to help me to come up with this amazing, let me see if I can make the clicker work. Okay, yeah, I do love to give Olivia the credit. When I was struggling to come up with a title, a presentation title is the hardest one to come up. Then Olivia said, let's just use this simple one, Mastering Leadership in PR. I don't know I'm mastering leadership in PR, but I said, okay, I like this title. Then I gave a subtitle, which is about advancing knowledge through systematic research and global collaboration, since this is a research symposium. So before we dive into the research program, I want to kind of mention how complicated a person's identity can be, just like how complicated leadership can be. So I kind of, for my professional ID, I put on different roles. I love the title that my dean gave to me, the Chief Academic Officer, okay, CAO, that highlights that my function in leadership, in strategy, in vision, in leading a department. Then I also feel the management function and the leadership function are intertwined together, always. There's budgeting, there's operation, there's personnel issue, there's operating functions, etc. And also when you work at a university, you're also being an educator and a researcher and a scholar. So this is where we do education, teaching, research, and bridging these two together to prepare next generation of professional educators, and also bridging the gap between the professional and the academia. And also, no matter where you are, we are always a global citizen to different levels. The school, the community, the university, beyond the university, the profession, here, beyond here. So this kind of sort of shaped my research area, my research specialization, focus on leadership in PR. But extended from leadership in PR, I also do gendering and leadership in PR, and also extended to the DEIB, the diversity, equity, inclusion, and also the belonging in public relation. And most recently, I've collaborated with several scholars actually in this room on ethics, ethical leadership, the servant leadership, and all this under the big picture of the global collaborations, which I'll share briefly with you. Before I prepared this talk, I asked Tina, should I just focus on one single study, or should I give an overview of my research? So Tina suggested, let's do an overview. So some slides I may go really fast. Some slides I will stay a little bit longer to give you a more in-depth information. So please feel free to stop me for any questions. So quickly, just like I said, everybody has multiple identities, both in professional setting or in personal life. Leadership is complex. So the slide show you kind of leadership is complex both in theory and practice. So historically, we've studied leadership from traits, personality, competency, skills, behaviors, task-oriented or relationship-oriented. And most recently, lots of leadership research have shifted on the styles, like transformational, transactional, which are quite dominant for a certain amount of time, and also be very familiar to all of you. Then most recently, because of the social movement, the pandemic, lots of leadership discussion have been shifted on adaptive, inclusive, authentic, which Angela touched base on in the presentation, and also the gender and the leadership. So it's complicated, and we are seeing many, many more recent leadership trends in research. And just like leadership, public relation practice is also complicated. Like the presentation Tina shared about misinformation, disinformation. We are living a global environment. We value diverse voices. We are divided, but also united in different ways. We call for different voices. We try to take a more proactive approach. And all these keywords are kind of summarized from the most recent released the Commission on Public Relation Education report, which I had the opportunity to attend a couple weeks ago in Chicago. So all these keywords summarize what PR is today, in today's very complex social and communication environment. And many more challenges and opportunities are rising every day. So this kind of linked to the fundamental question that academic scholars, we always love to ask. Why do we need to do research in leadership in public relations? And I just love this quote directly from the commission report. So, public relation is a voice for all of society in the boardroom, at the leadership table, and throughout the organization it serves. So when I was a doctoral student at the University of Alabama, the Planck Center for Leadership in Public Relations was just established in 2005. And when I work with my mentor, Dr. Bruce Berger, we asked lots of questions about why do we do leadership in public relations? To leverage the value of the profession, to do more research and provide resources to educators, students, and professionals, and to address how important public relations function to the organizational performance, reputation, the image of the profession, etc. And it has been almost 20 years since the center was established. And the quote that I put out from the report just further proved this is why we study leadership in public relations. And so, again, academic nature in myself, we love to ask all kinds of critical questions. So when we decided to do leadership research, we asked, then what are those most important leadership qualities an excellent PR leader, demonstrate? And not surprisingly, top one is the strategic decision-making capability, immediately followed by the ability to solve problems and also produce results. So we don't just solve problems, we also produce results. And at the same time, we are the expert in communication knowledge and related skills. Then kind of related to this, we also asked, then what makes PR leadership unique if we compare to any other disciplines? This is another nature in academic research. We always try to establish our territory, try to make the profession a unique one that is different from other disciplines. So these are kind of several top qualities and the unique features reported by the professionals we surveyed in this country. So number one is a clear and compelling vision. It's not just regular vision, but a vision about how communication can actually influence the organization's decision making. And again, understanding of the media and information system. This study was done by almost 10 years ago. Okay, but if we look at today, it still applies. Maybe we'll just add social media. But again, social media is still under that broad media umbrella and the system and the information and the channels, platforms. And again, we have the ability to strategically construct message and eventually to show how we were able to put together a comprehensive communication plan. So these kind of two fundamental questions help us to shape. Now we need to define what is public relation leadership. What does it mean if we have to define a construct to help us to develop theory to advance our knowledge in this specific topic and the territory? So we kind of link back to the complexity of the leadership research. It is a dynamic process. It requires different individual skills, personal attributes, values, and behaviors in order to produce effective communication. And ethics stay at the center of everything. Then all this together will help to produce successful communication practice, the team, relationship building, and also help organizations achieve their outcomes and eventually to move to a much broader level of social impact at the society level. So once we have the construction with the concept, the conceptualization part, academic research move on to next level of leadership theory development to identify the key dimensions to describe what leadership in population should comprise. So here are those core dimensions from the individual level, self-dynamics, to the team collaboration level, to the central of the ethical orientation, and to the relationship building that we always care about, both internal and external. And also that back to the fundamental quality and features I talked earlier, the strategic decision making and the knowledge about communication and the media knowledge. So this kind of answered what is leadership in PR. Then we move on to so what? Now what? Okay, we have the definition, we have the dimension, we identify those key features and unique features. Now what? So this study helped us to advance. This is the so what part. We are always argued and advocated for, we need a supportive organizational culture to value public relation practice, to recognize the contribution of public relation practice. And this study specifically mentioned, at the same time, leadership practice, effective communication practice can further foster a supportive organizational culture. This is kind of further leverage why it matters. Okay, not just we need that to support us, but we actually can contribute back to reshape the culture in the organization. So this can help us to address that, so what should be the next one? And then this kind of linked to our very first global collaboration to have that curiosity in that scholarly mind. We test everything in this country based on the database of communication professional, communication executives, actually here in New York, when Bill Heyman was still the CEO of the Heyman Associates. Then we moved on. We want to further test it if the concept, the dimensions, and also that interrelated relationship work in a global setting. So we were able to carry out this 3-year-long global project back to 2012. And we were able to organize a team of 28 researchers representing different countries and a research team and recruit almost 4,500 respondents to give us their definition of leadership in public relations, their definition about the key quality features, what they think about that leadership model we developed at the Theory Foundation, and also what they think about the organizational culture, that mutual beneficial relationship between leadership performance and organizational culture. So this is kind of a quick snapshot based on that year's data. These are kind of top issues based on the global survey reflected what PR leaders are worried about or concerned about, or their top priority when making decisions or conducting research. So big data back to that time already take a significant percentage, followed by social media crisis. How do we measure the value of PR? The top talent, not just recruit, but also retain. And also that image about the profession itself. Some other topics like global communication, employee engagement, how do we address the need of communication transparency from the stakeholders? So I was thinking if this year or next year we had the capacity to redo this global study, what will be the brain of PR leaders today? I'm sure AI will be there. Technology still stay there, right? And I'm sure that mental health, well-being will become a new corner somewhere in the leader's brain. And the distrust, mistrust information will be there. But I do feel there's a lot of topics, they stay as a top priority for PR leaders to consider for the better communication team function. And then this kind of inspired us to do a serious longitudinal study on the leadership performance. That's what we call the leadership report card over the past 10 years. And we'll hope to launch another new study next year. So in this leadership report card, we focus on 5 specific topics. Leadership performance, which is the foundation of what my research is doing. Then we want to test the leadership performance impact on trust, on employee engagement, on the organizational culture, which is critical, and eventually on communication professional or PR practitioners' job satisfaction. Sorry, I keep saying this way. Didn't mean to ignore this part of the audience. It's just I have the intent to move closer to the computer. So this is kind of showing that the comparative results of those 4 studies over 10 years about that assessment of the 5 key topics: leader performance, the trust, the engagement, organizational culture, and the satisfaction. And you will notice that there's A+, A-, C+, A-, C+. Then why would you have 2 numbers? Because the perceptual gap between the leader and followers. Just like Tina said, everybody think I'm doing a great job. But if we ask a follower, do you think your leader is doing a great job? No, they get a C+. So it's very interesting. The gap is there over 10 years. Okay, when we ask leader to assess, how do you address A, B, C, D? We have a serious question to ask them to assess. They always evaluate themselves doing a great job. But if we turn the perspective to the followers, rate the same questions, but the performance of their direct, immediate supervisor on those actions, they get a much lower score. So is it a kind of organizational cynicism, or is it a natural reflection about the performance gap? We don't know. So this could be another study to dive into deep from a qualitative perspective, why there's a gap. How can we minimize the gap? Or is the gap will be there forever? Because no matter what the leader do, the followers, they will just express disagreement when everything is reported in a self-reported survey or anonymous data. So this is something we are very curious about. And again, that are descriptive results. This can link to the so what. Okay. So like I mentioned earlier, we already proved that leadership performance and organizational culture can create that mutual beneficial relationship to prove and support each other. But they together, the culture and the leadership performance, can further influence engagement, influence the trust, both directly and indirectly, and eventually influence job satisfaction. Why does it matter? Because it's about employee retention. Think about over the pandemic, the communication profession, or maybe any profession, experienced a large turnover because of the pandemic, because of the change of culture, workplace. Women or minority quit a job, okay, or CEO resignation from position. That creates lots of challenges about retention. So if the model itself proves that so what part, what we can do, then in practice, that will help in the future in terms of talent management. And this leads to another global collaboration through the North American Communication Monitor. So I don't know how many of you have heard about the Global Communication Monitor series in the past. So I know IPR has sponsored the Latin American Monitor in the past, and we have European Communication Monitor and Asian Pacific Communication Monitor. North American Communication Monitor is the latest one to add to the Global Communication Monitor series. And the Planck Center is the organizer and the sponsor. So for this one, the first edition, that we were able to test that so what question in the global setting. And very interesting, this kind of the so what model was approved in both US and Canada, that's the North American, but also in 38 European countries, and also large, the data collected from the Asian Pacific Communication Monitor as well as Latin American. So that gave us really positive feedback about the function of those factors can actually work together to influence engagement, influence, build the trust, or rebuild the trust, and eventually improve the satisfaction about the retention rate of the communication profession to make this profession a much more effective, happy, and people want to stay. So this kind of really gave us that positive news in terms of the leadership research, even though we have to consider the cultural context, the political structure, etc., or the PR industry, the infrastructure itself. But those core concepts worked in most cultural and societies that we recruited professionals. Then continue over as you publish different studies, you want to grow your research tree of the PR leadership by diving to other topics and by taking different approaches. So this is kind of linked to one of my most recent projects, collaborated with Dr. Marlene Neal. She's also here with us, that we focus on that women and the leadership in populations. And we are very happy that we could collaborate on this project together to make an impact on this very important topic. So this kind of goes back to the fundamental question, scholars always ask, or maybe all of you as well, why are women underrepresented in elite leadership roles? Okay. And the publication profession in the United States is a gendered profession. Not sure if you can see the numbers here, okay? Even though women are making the majority entering the PR profession, just like when I teach in a classroom, any of the PR core courses, I have probably 90% of female students, 10% or even less than 10% male students. And among all this together, the minority or diverse student body, probably less than 5%, okay? And even the profession itself has been criticized for lacking racial diversity and inclusion. Majority, white, and we do have 8% Black African American. This is from the US Bureau of Status report in 2022. And look at the AAPI representation, less than 1%, and I am here, okay? So think about that lack of racial diversity and inclusion in leadership or in publication profession itself. There's so much we need to do, so much we should do. So this is reflecting our research. And Dr. Neal and I dive back into literature to try to find out why there's gender biases in leadership roles in communication or in elite profession. So this is based on a 2010 study released by Harvard Business School. And they talk about the gender biases in leadership context at 3 levels. Level 1, how organization structure leadership paths and promotional policies. Level 2, how people perceive women leaders' capabilities. Level 3, how individual women leaders navigate their paths, eventually get there to make that unique story. And what's most important in this part is women's qualification to be a leader is questioned at all 3 levels, each of the all 3 levels. So this is a comprehensive literature review from a 2010 study. And here's what we found in our 2021 study. Not much change. 10 years or maybe 12 years efforts calling for action, marching, do all kinds of things to try to advocate for advancement. But here's what we found. The double standards in domestic roles and also the professional demands. That the social attitude stereotype still against women's leadership capability. And also that workplace structure, as mentioned by the research released by the business school. So not much progress, still there. Those stubborn obstacles, I don't even call it glass ceiling, we call it concrete ceiling. Okay, glass you can break it, but concrete ceiling, you have to have the drills and to really make some noise and cause some disruption and interruptions. And a woman of color that reflecting our data in our survey and reported that they feel specifically disadvantaged by race-based stereotypes. And we do have in-depth interviews conducted, and there are lots of quotes there to share their experience in terms of specific stories about racial-based stereotypes. And also we investigate about those factors, why we are having this kind of underrepresentation of women in top leadership positions. What are the factors causing that underrepresentations? The first one is lack of role model. If I'm inspired to go up that corporate ladder, leadership ladder, to be there, but if I don't see someone like me, that I feel I'm discouraged because I don't have someone to look up to go get advanced, to build that mentor-mentee relationship, etc. So that has been the number one based on the rankings from our surveyed professionals. And the number 2 is the struggle of balanced work and life. Okay, and it just got worse when pandemic hit. So when you move everything to home, you're blurring the boundary of your professional work and your household responsibilities and the child care, etc. And the number 3 factors causing that underrepresentation is about that they lack the opportunity to get those authority-related decision-making power, like staffing, like budgeting. They're still being cornered to do the caring job rather than decision-making job. So that kind of based on the rankings of our professional respondents, these are the top 3 factors. Quite shocking, but like I said, I'm also not too surprised at the same time. Things like, well, didn't change much, even though we advocated so hard. And these are kind of 2 specific factors mentioned by women of color. They don't see female role models, people like me, okay? They also don't get opportunity to receive those desirable work assignments to demonstrate their leadership capability and their leadership capacity in a long term, benefiting the organization. And we also investigate what does that mean to women in terms if you are defining yourself having influence, or you are able to build influence within your team, beyond your team, with the organization. The way they define influence are very interesting. They'd rather see themselves as being trusted advisors. That's the number one factor they consider as being influential. Number two, they want to have continued career advancement opportunity. And we found that age bracket from 30 to 45 is a group that's a vulnerable group. They tend to either drop out of their career advancement opportunity, but if they have to stay, they wanted to stay, they have to find different support ways to be able to balance that work-life family responsibility. And they also value, if they were able to demonstrate expertise, they consider that is an influential role for them. And for women of color, for them, their response is to define having influence or being influential advisor is to gain visibility. They want to be more visible in the boardroom, at the leadership table, or at the key assignments that associate to the organization's future or performance or visionary assignments. They want to gain that visibility through those important like authority or strategic decision-making opportunities. And also, sadly, 3 out of 10 female professionals admit they do not have mentors. So that is a significant percentage. 30% they don't have mentors, and we've been educating our students at the university in different programs. Try to find mentors through PRSSA, or through the university mentorship program, or through internship, through different field programs, study abroad program. Those internship and those connection, networking we emphasize over and over really provide ample opportunities to find the mentor and build that mentor-mentee relationships. So I'm going out of time very soon. So this kind of the question results about that women and leadership in population lead us to look at the function of inclusive leadership. This kind of address that so what, okay? We do see the gaps, we do see the challenges. We didn't see that much progress over the years. What the inclusive leadership can do. Inclusive leadership, if applied appropriately within the communication environment or organization, will build the diversity climate to support that diversity point of view at the table. And it will also encourage participative leadership. So it's easy for us to send employees or send students to a leadership development workshop. They can check mark, right, to get a leadership development certificate. But do they really get to be involved in decision-making or leadership opportunities? That's a different story. So we advocate link your leadership development opportunity to leadership participative opportunity to walk the talk. Again, back to what Angela shared at the slides, to eventually to empower minorities, empower diverse voices within the team, and eventually link to a better career growth opportunities. So that's about several leadership research I did. I don't think I'll be having time to talk about this because this is shift the topic to a totally different area. I'm going to fast forward to my final slide. I told Olivia I like to over-prepare, and this showed I overloaded information, okay? But here is sort of like going back to the title of my presentation, the systematic research to address why leadership matters, and also what kind of global collaborations can advance our knowledge. So if the leadership population is a core concept in my research program, we did a lot of foundational investigation to identify the key qualities, the unique features, that conceptualization, the leadership model, and also the leader-follow gaps. And internally, we focus on the function of leadership, how to influence internal communication, the cultural part, the engagement part, level of trust, and the talent management. And to branch out that leadership tree in terms of research, we can relate to so many different topics and approaches by looking at the diversity part, the ethical part, inclusive part, and also eventually that empowerment of minority and other disadvantaged groups. And in the global context, All these topics can be applied to global collaboration with different teams and research to advance our understanding of culture, the government communication, the datafication, technology, etc. And I want to say leadership research in population has that interdisciplinary nature because we can't just do that by ourselves. It got to be a collaborative team from different perspectives and bring different voices to enrich our understanding of leadership in populations. So to that, I welcome any questions.